we may as well start with the icebreaker. It's been, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks since we last heard you on Sounders Weekly. So, what have you been up to for the last few weeks?
Jackson really upset me with his hard-hitting questions, and I had to go out, take a break. I've been traveling each of the last 2 weeks, and I think the timing didn't work for various reasons. So, but I'm here. It's mid-season.
Yeah.
It's the mid-season update. I mean, who would want to miss it?
Well, let's rewind that. The transfer window closed. I think this is the first time that the Sounders haven't made any move at all in the summer transfer window. What does that, what can you tell us about the efforts that you guys made to make a signing, and B, is there still a possibility of something, of a player incoming?
Sure. Well, roster freezes September 2nd, so we got 3 weeks so we can bring in free agents, and I can't claim I expect something, but it is possible, and things pop up, and guys are going to still come through waivers. You obviously saw us sell the international spot. Some of these transactions that get done but aren't closed, they don't get the player pass until after the deadline. So you can see some little stuff like that. But I think the bigger story, I think it makes the most sense with context, so bear with me for a little bit. We've had a flat salary cap for 3 seasons because of COVID and having to redo the CBA, and you guys all know that. So 2020, lose MLS Cup, 2021, lose the Leagues Cup final, 22, win the Champions League. But our focus over that span has been to keep the team together. And I think that consistency and that stability has done pretty well over that period of time. But what happened when you retain your players, they hit bonuses, the team's very successful. As your salaries go like this, the cap again has been flat for 3 years. So the way we structured everything then was to basically push a balloon payment, is really what it is, into 2023. And so it's all structured, it's handled, but it is a Jenga puzzle, and if you pull one of the pieces out, the whole thing can come crashing down, because we're 7 figures in the hole for next year. And that was how we went into this season. So then we had the opportunity to sign Rusnak. We said we just can't pass this one up. Maybe this is the one that wins Champions League. So we did it. Now our hole is multiple millions. And we were able to do the Brad Smith deal to claw some of that back. You've seen us sell international spots. We've done things around the margins. But the reality is that in terms of payments due to players, the positive is that everybody on the team is signed except for Jimmy Medranda, who's will be a free agent. The downside of that is that everybody is on a wage that is makes it very, very difficult to do anything. So then the second layer, so you go to that and you say, okay, would it be appropriate to break up the team that won Champions League 3 months ago? And I thought that's a really bad message. These guys that have grinded for us, that have put it in, that literally did something historic, and made it an immortal team. We believe in them, and we should believe in them, because this was the best team on the continent 3 months ago. So to put ourselves in a position where we had to break the group up after the season, that didn't make any sense to us. Then the third factor in it, which I think is important just to kind of conceptualize, is we could not, even if we signed a replacement, we couldn't take a long contract, because JP's coming back. And we, as I said, we have our team. We believe that group, again, was the best team on the continent 3 months ago. And we have really good young players in that defensive midfielder spot as well. So you could only take a loan for a short term if you wanted to bring a player in there. And likewise, say, all right, well, then sign a right winger. But Christian Roldan's your starter there. So, it was the most tricky window I think we've ever had in terms of trying to thread a needle. And I think ultimately it was a little frustrating from a front office perspective. It wasn't surprisingly frustrating, but what we were doing was very difficult, and there wasn't a lot of ways to succeed. So we probably chased as many or more deals than we have in any other summer window, but we did so with really limited resources. And I think realistically, to upgrade our team, given the quality in the group and given the quality of the young players, it would have cost, based on our market research, about $750,000. And again, then if you talk about adding that to next year, that puts you in, you're going to have to lose a player permanently if you do that. So we just said, hey, we believe in the group. We think that, literally we won a title in May. The group deserves a chance to repeat in November. And so that's the decision we made. And ultimately, I totally understand if the fans are frustrated or we're second guessed, and that comes with the territory. Just try to kind of give you guys the big picture as at least what our thought process was in that regard.
With all that context in mind, and that Jenga puzzle you just mentioned, when you have after getting a historic title and now having the opportunity to go to the Club World Cup, how much would you be willing to shake that Jenga puzzle to maybe add even more talent to do an even bigger impact in this huge tournament?
Look, what I would say, Nico, is that honestly right now we don't know. We still haven't received official confirmation as to when or where the tournament's going to get played. Like, it still feels like it can really only go in that February space, but I just can't comment with any degree of accuracy until we know details of that tournament, etc. Because as you can imagine, like it's got to match up with the transfer window. Like there are scenarios under which the tournament's before the transfer window opens, and then I can tell you whatever I want, but we won't be able to add players. So anyway, it'll get figured out. We're going to play that tournament, and but we're just going to have to cross some of those player acquisition things when we come to them.
So when you talk about the frustration, as far as the front office not being a part of it, or Don last night was talking about this being the most money spent in the transfer window. Is that kind of frustrating to not have been part of that kind of deals? Or
Yeah. I guess let me phrase it more eloquently and try to do a better job with that, Jada. It was frustrating in the sense that you want to help, right? I mean, that's our job is to bring in players and bring in options and to help, and ultimately we weren't able to do that. So. Again, I can't claim I was surprised that we weren't able to do it, because I think what we were doing was very specific and pretty tricky to pull off. But I think when I say frustrated, that's what I mean. I mean it in a constructive way, that we had to chase all these rabbits down all these different holes because we were, I think the way Weibel phrased it last time, we're trying to chase a unicorn. And so I think that was maybe the frustrating part is trying to stay disciplined. Because look, I mean, if we could have gone out, we could have spent $1 million, we could have brought in a starting level player, but at the cost of our team. And that's the decision that ultimately we stuck with. But there are definitely moments of temptation there, where you're like, man, this the shiny thing is right in front of you. I just need to go pick that up. But ultimately we stayed disciplined, and time will tell if that was the right decision or not.
And when you say help, you're talking about as far as helping out the injuries that you've had in the midfield, or like what position were you maybe?
I think just trying yeah. I mean, look, the two positions we focused on were the defensive midfield role where JP was injured, and the right wing role. Knowing that Christian can slide to one of those two. So we looked at a lot of options specifically there. And again, we believe in this group, and we believe in the young guys coming through. And one of the exciting things that comes out of this is we get more minutes for some of those developing players, and hopefully they get a chance to prove themselves and establish themselves here, because it feels like we've been playing forever, but we still got a third of the season left. I mean, we got 10 games. It's a long way to go. So overall, just feel good about the team, and feel good too about the organization. So I don't want to, because look, I mean, we won the GA Cup again, right? Our MLS Next Pro team is in first place. This is our third youth championship, because we won a GA Cup, we won a national. So there are things happening in our development pipeline that objectively prove that we have talent coming through, and now it's just a question of getting that production then at the first team level.
You mentioned the Defiance or the MLS Next Pro. Is there anyone from the Defiance that you're looking at possibly bringing in? I assume those players are still eligible to be brought up.
Yeah, those guys can be signed until September 2nd. That is something we're considering. So yes, that's a possibility, Jeremiah.
Is there any names that you can share that are like?
I don't want to be that specific here, but look, as we know, when a team does well, then recognition comes to individuals, and I think that's happening with Defiance, and Wade Weber's done a great job with that group, and we just have a great staff on the developmental side. Henry Bronner's been instrumental in building that out as well.
On just digging on that situation a little bit more, are there players that have shown you something this year that maybe you didn't see at the beginning of the year that have changed the way that you think about them as potential Sounders?
I mean, the answer to that question is yes, but I would choose not to get specific, Jeremiah, in the sense of that can't. The answer to that question is supposed to be yes, right? I mean, they're young guys. They're supposed to come in. They're supposed to, some will impress, and the other thing we found is that development is almost always nonlinear. It's not one step forward and then another. Like we wish that were the case, but that's not the way it works. And so, to talk to you about this kid that's done well over the last month, I don't know how productive that is relative to the overall project continuing to move forward.
Your 2 weeks absence from the podcast kind of opened up the door as far as Atlanta. Is there anything serious about that, or would you even be interested as far as moving to a different club, similar position, but moving to a different club?
Look, I think, just to repeat what I said, when the club does well, then people are going to, in recognition, rumors are going to start out with individuals. I think the other thing that's really special about our club, Jada, is the GM vote, and that's coming up, and that's an exciting part. We're the only team in North America that does that, and that's a really big part of our culture, and it's really important, I think, for us to respect that and respect that process. But intended or unintended, what's going to come with that then is some speculation about the GM, and meaning not necessarily even specific to me, but whoever the next GM is or the next one after that. When you have the vote, you're going to have contracts run out, and you're going to have, that's public, right? So you're going to have speculation then about my position, and that is what it is. And certainly, as I said, I think we've done well. We've hit well on all aspects of the organization, and hopefully that is enough to be retained in the vote that's coming up, I think, in the next month or so.
So to kind of pivot on that, obviously, whenever you're arguably the best GM in MLS, your name is going to get out there. But you personally have done just about every objective that you set to have here with the organization. However, you got this World Club coming up. How important is it for you to be part of that journey and everything that's going to happen at some point next year?
Yeah, look, it's obviously important, right? I mean, you guys have heard me, the most bitter defeat of my career was losing the Champions League final in 2011, and, putting the picture up on my fireplace and, looking at it every day for 11 years and being able to take it down and put it in storage. That was a big deal, that felt really good for me personally. So yeah, it's something I'd like to be a part of, Nico. And look, I think more importantly, it's really good for our club, and it's really good for MLS to have our club be part of that and represent ourselves well.
So being part of that, I mean, that would make it almost impossible for another club to come and give you something that's worth more than that, right?
It certainly would mean a lot to me to be part of that, Nico.
At one point, there was talk. At one point of the season, there was talk about Nuhu possibly going out on loan or anything like that. Was there anything serious that actually materialized?
I can't claim that there is. I mean, look, the window is still open in Europe, so I mean, it's not too late. But yeah, no, I would say that there wasn't a ton of noise on any particular player. We have a couple of guys that are going to go play in the World Cup at the end of the season, so we do anticipate that there may be some movement in the market in January. But what you're seeing is, I think, far less a reflection of our guys and far more a reflection of the toll that COVID has taken on the soccer ecosystem. The top 15 or so clubs in the world, you're still reading the headlines, they're still doing fine. They have global marketing deals and stuff, and they're buying players. But if you look at the middle class, if you look at that next tier where MLS players are being sold into more frequently, those teams have not recovered yet, and they don't have the funds that they had 3 years ago. So I think that is, the market is still slow in terms of acquisitions for mid-20s MLS players. So that's what we're dealing with, and obviously we'll keep working with our players and keep looking for opportunities, but I think that's the new situation.
Another player that I don't know how much you can speak to specifically, but Luis Suarez was someone that was, there's a lot of chatter about. Brian seemed to indicate that maybe some of that was founded in real discussions. Can you just shed some light? Is there any light that you can shed on what, if anything, was going on with Suarez?
I think it's going to be kind of pointless to address every rumor that's out there for every possible transaction. And look, what I will tell you is that Nico Ladero and Luis Suarez are friends. You guys know that from our 2016 recruitment and signing of Nico. But with Luis, it never progressed to the point where I actually spoke to Luis. So in that sense, I wouldn't say that we were ever holding our breath. And again, it was one where, if I think the easy comparison is the Bale signing, right? Well, if LAFC gets Gareth Bale, can Seattle get Suarez? But LAFC still paid Bale, $1.5 million, I think, and we just didn't have. We could have spent that, but we would have done so at the long-term cost of the group, and so we just weren't in a position to be able to offer that kind of thing. So I would have been pretty surprised if he would have accepted what we offered.
Speaking of LAFC, when you hear guys like Twellman at some point say that the signing of Bale and Cellini makes now Sounders seem like they're chasing after LAFC, what does that tell you, and how does that make you feel? Like, do you believe that? I mean,
look, man, we had a CSO dinner at the All-Star game, and I told this kind of laughingly to the group, but I don't know if it was with an interview or not, I don't remember, but I did at least one interview, I think a couple before the Champions League, like the 2 or 3 days before, where I was asked directly, is this the greatest MLS team of all time? And if you guys win Champions League, is that the crowning achievement of your career? Is this the greatest team ever? And 4 weeks later, Gareth Bale got signed by LAFC, and you're like, oh, you're not the best team in the conference anymore. So, like, it's a great humbling perspective, right? That's very much the nature of the job. That literally we were the greatest team for 3 weeks or so in the eyes of the media. So, look, I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I don't know if we were the greatest team of all time. I think we're probably not a bad team now. But most importantly, we believe in our group again. This group has gone through a lot of battles. They've won a lot of games. They've won a lot of big games, and we believe in our talent coming through. And hopefully that's the right group for us. And at the end of the day, I can only be responsible for the Sounders. And John Thornton, I tip my hat to him. He had maybe the greatest transfer window in league history, signing the DP as well. And I think would be a rightful winner for the Executive of the Year award if they give that out again. So kudos to him, and kudos to LAFC. But so far we've done already good stuff in the playoffs.
Club World
Kind of
Cup.
you guys are a point outside. So does the CCL championship override anything that happens in the MLS?
I wouldn't say that, Jada. I mean, because we want to win. Like the answer that I loved was the answer that Raul gave. He yesterday, the day before, he was asked, you guys going to make the playoffs? He's like, why are you asking me about that? Like, I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, we're concerned with winning an MLS Cup. That's what we're here for. And I think that's it. So I mean, Champions League is great. I mean, if you look at the organization, and we won a GA Cup, we're first place in the MLS Next Pro. We won the Champions League. Like, we can all sit and be happy about that. Like, I think it's going to be tough to argue we had a bad year at the end of the year, but we're in this to win MLS Cup. That was always the goal. Winning Champions League was an awesome accomplishment, historic, but that didn't change our goal. Our goal coming into the season was certainly to try to win that, but to win MLS Cup. And I've talked about in some ways, if you can get everybody healthy again, it's easier to repeat if you think of an Champions League to an MLS Cup, because it's 6 months apart, right? As opposed to MLS Cup to MLS Cup. So in 2019 we win, 2020 we get back, we lose the final. That's a 12-month stretch there where you got different contracts, different guys coming and going. In theory, this is the same group, right? And it's only 4 or 5 months later. So again, our belief is that we're going to take a shot at this thing and that we're going to contend for MLS Cup.
I know we're bouncing around a little bit, but 2 Club World Cup related questions. One is, have you gotten any more clarification from the league as far as if there is, like, the way that winning MLS Cup gets you some allocation money and those kind of things? Has there been any more discussion with the league about, like, what any of that means? And B, is the understanding that whether or not the Club World Cup happens in February, that the Sounders are for sure in whenever the next Club World Cup is held?
I do not have concrete information on any of that, Jeremiah, unfortunately. So certainly we will keep you updated. I would love to know the answer to those questions as well. And look, the Champions League stuff, a lot of it's just a case of first impression. It's never happened before, and so there wasn't necessarily a plan that was in place, and so it's got to get negotiated, and that's happening above my level. So once they tell us, then we'll act on it.
You mentioned being in the hole for 2023. Do more things have to happen to get out of that hole for 23?
No. So by not signing, so the bad news is we didn't sign any new players in the summer window. The good news is by taking that approach, we can keep the team for next year. That was the decision that we made, was a vote of confidence for the group that won the Champions League. And again, was allegedly the best team on the continent 3 months ago. So, given that, we think we can make a run at MLS Cup.
So based on that, then, in terms of how the roster sets up for 23, what does that look like then for the next window come next off season? What flexibility do you have for the next window?
I think if you, in very simple terms, it's one in, one out kind of stuff. We can accommodate everybody that we have here. If we want to change something, if we want to move somebody up, then we're going to have to do it out. And look, again, we're going to have, I think, probably 4 or more players playing in the World Cup. That's obviously going to drive their market value, one would expect. And look, at the end of the season, some people want to stay, some people want, we're almost getting ahead of ourselves here, Jackson. We got to wait and see how this plays out. And you always have flexibility after a season to work with your players and to say what's good for everybody. So we'll do that as we always do. And I wanted to give you that point just in the context of, hey, it wasn't a thoughtless process. We didn't just put our feet up on the desk and say, hey, we're good. We tried to chase some stuff down and ultimately decided, the group deserves to stay together for another year.
For the Club World Cup, is that as far as context, is that something that you're just told one day this is what's going to happen, or do you even know what the actual process is and even scheduling it? Because I've heard obviously the World Cup is causing issues with it being in the normal spot, but
yep.
Yeah. So you just get told.
Yeah. Look, it's a FIFA decision, right? And obviously we, the Sounders, don't have representation with FIFA. MLS does. So MLS and CONCACAF, the CONCACAF who governs the region, they will be in contact with FIFA, and when they have information, then they'll share it with us. So it's one of those.
It's not even anybody you can campaign to.
It's nothing. It's just one of those. It's just kind of accepting what you can't change. And to be clear, I have every belief that it's going to happen in February. It's going to be the same format as it was before with 7 teams. I have no information that leads me to believe that it's going to be radically different. But likewise, I have nothing in writing that says it's here, it's done. So
you mentioned targeting a defensive midfielder spot. Is there any update on Obed Vargas as well?
We're going to be very cautious with Obed. That is a long-term project, and you saw him out here. He is not at a point where he's even jogging yet. So I think you can extrapolate from that it's not day to day. It's not even week to week.
Was there any conversation with Raul about him even playing yesterday, given the fact that he's just getting back to injuries?
Yeah, the league has a rule that requires players to play that are voted to that game, and if they don't, they're suspended for the next league game. So Raul was always going to play, and obviously scored the winning goal, and congrats to him. And thought Jordan did well as well, and it was a fun event. And I think if you look at the Leagues Cup showcase that took place at SoFi Stadium with the LA teams, and next thing over 1.5 million people watched it. You look at the All-Star game, the rivalry between the Liga MX All-Stars, MLS All-Stars. I think all this really bodes well for the Leagues Cup next summer. I think it's going to be a really, really cool event.